names. You look at any school alumni, you see Patil, 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 Patel, 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 all over there.
Hi, my name is Tanisha Saraf, and along with my friend Tanisha Sodha, I started Common Ground. Inspired by Middle Ground, Common Ground is a platform for people from opposing views and beliefs to come together to find a common ground. Our first episode features students from ICSE and IB, each with a different experience. Hope you enjoy the video.
So hi, I'm Arnav Kejriwal. I'm in grade 12 and I've been in IB since exactly a year.
Hi, my name is Vedika. I'm in 11th grade and I've been doing IB since primary years pretty much my entire life. So that's all I've been exposed to.
Hi, I'm Bhavna. I'm a mother to two beautiful daughters, a social media influencer and an entrepreneur.
Hi, I'm Sushant. I am a dentist. I did ICSE up to the 10th and Maharashtra State Board up to the 12th, and then I did my Masters at ICSE.
My name is Mehak. I have been in ICSE since ever. I'm passing out of 12th soon and I'm going to be a law student.
Hi, my name is Smita. I'm also a mother and my son is in ICSE and I am an ICSE ISE product as well. I teach French.
If you agree with the following statement, please come to the middle. On an average, I enjoyed my school experience.
I enjoy my school experience pretty much because I did my entire schooling from grade 1 to grade 12 in the same school with the same set of friends. And we had a lot of exposure to literary events that I was interested in. And in those days, ICSE was considered to be a very, somewhere high up there kind of board. So we were quite snobbish, if I can say that now. And we enjoyed exposure at the national level, at the state level, and everybody wanted to be in an ICSE school at that time.
On contrary to that, I am in a generation where almost everyone was in ICSE, or at least I was surrounded by people who were. I don't think what made schooling enjoyable for me was the education system or the educational curriculum as much as the people I found. So if it was not for them, I don't think ICSE would have been something that was, as you could say, something that builds your personality or something that you enjoy starting or learning.
In our generation, I was in a CBSE till grade 9 and then I travelled a lot of places. After that, after Delhi, I was in Chandigarh, then in Paris. So it was an amazing life, completely stress-free basically.
For me, I really enjoyed my school experience because it was very smooth. I was in the same school, same board throughout, surrounded by the same people. And overall, the approach to teaching was something I was very comfortable with and also something that really nurtured my curiosity. So that made learning, the academic part, and also like my environment really enjoyable.
Can the disagreeers please step forward?
Adequately satisfied with the ICSE curriculum. I really enjoyed my time with my friends in grade 9, I think from grade 7 to grade 10. But what made it a little less enjoyable was the fact that ICSE doesn't expose us to different concepts the way IB does.
So it wasn't enjoyable only because of the authoritarian kind of regime that my school was. It was ICSE, but at the same time you had too many restrictions. You needed to do things in a very specific way, and there were a lot of different ways that they pushed your individuality down and made you become a copy-paste kind of person. You were cookie cutter, just different people but the same person. And that's something that I really did enjoy. When I was exposed to different kind of educational environments, I saw that you can be, in fact, the more different you are, the better people see who you really are instead of just being like exactly like the other person. So next year.
But in today's generation, do you all feel that everyone's trying to be different when they're actually not?
In a way, yes. So let's take into account the US college application process. In that, there's a new term called spike, in which how much ever unique the person is, they'll get rewarded that way. So like people are in a way incentivized to be unique, even though they don't have the quality to be unique, or they don't have anything to be unique about. They just try to be unique. They just try to pursue unique things, even though that might not be their forte.
Honestly, I may not be right, but what I feel I kind of agree with ICSE, we are pushed into a way where we have to all be the same parameters. We're all judged as if, there's a popular quote, whether a fish can climb a tree. So when we actually go into, try to go into colleges which make you or reward you for your individuality, I feel like that's where we start. Because ICSE is preparing us for the Indian employment industry, right? Where they need not just skilled workers or skilled leaders, they need people who can listen.
Like to a point is good, but it's not good if you fake it. It's not good if you fake having a spike or being unique.
I think the difference there comes from the environment that you're raised in. Like I think Indian culture in general is a lot about being a cog in the wheel rather than an individual, a complete individual. So you're raised in the same culture, but you're supposed to be individualistic, and that's where the kind of difference arises.
I agree with culture at home. The culture in the country also makes a lot of difference. And about his spike, I don't know. In the Indian education system, especially ICSE and CBSE, we encourage rote learning or we encourage studying from a textbook and writing. We don't encourage anything else. Doing something different, conducting a program like this, for example, which could be a spike for you. Nothing of this sort. If my son tells me that, okay, I want to go and organize something for the kids in my society, first thing I would ask him is, have you finished your homework? Have you prepared for your test? Yes, even though I don't want to be like that, that is what I have turned out to be.
I had time to pursue extracurricular activities.
Okay. Well, I had a lot of time to pursue extracurricular activities, not that I did too much, but yes, I did manage to learn music. I stayed 30 kilometers away from the city, so we didn't really have access to a lot of things, but we had full access to outdoor activities. You can do cycling. We did play badminton every day. We went, I live by the river, so every day I went to walk by the river. No, I don't swim. Unfortunately, I wasn't a sporty person, but I had all the opportunity in the world to do whatever I wanted.
So in my school, we also have a lot of cultural events, and it's kind of the USP, if I may say so, of my school, that they do focus a lot on sports every day, music, art. So it's already in your timetable, so you're doing it no matter what.
Yeah, I also did a lot of extracurricular activities in school, like dancing, and skating till national level, and a lot of sports. So I had my fair share of extracurriculars.
So I think there is a difference from school to school, city to city, and board to board regarding this matter. In IB, we have this component called CAS, Creativity, Activity and Service, in which you have to do extracurriculars. Like, they'll rob you of your Pearl points, or there's something called, they'll rob you of your Pearl point if they won't let you graduate in a way if you don't complete your CAS requirements. So that's the importance of extracurriculars in IB. But when I was in ICSE in Mumbai, from grade 7 to 10, our school didn't allow us to pursue extracurriculars. In the sense, we had SPA periods. SPA in the sense like activity periods. Yeah. We had these activity periods, which were like taken over by subject teachers. Like, you can't do sports. We have like portion to cover. But when I was in my missionary school in Ranchi, there was a wide variety of extracurriculars. We had 2 basketball courts, 2 tennis courts, whatever. Like that school had loads of extracurricular opportunities. So again, there's a difference from city to city and board.
I think it's not to do with the board, it's to do with more of the city culture in Mumbai, because I mostly studied in Delhi, so the infrastructure, they still have infrastructure. If you say these local schools, ICSE schools are not named the school,
They don't have
the infrastructure. So had they had the infrastructure, they would have definitely promoted those extracurricular activities.
Despite having the infrastructure, like the teachers don't have that thing like students should pursue extracurriculars.
It's also like the circuit or like the group that your school is in. So if your school is like associated with other schools that do a lot of these, inter-school competitions and all that, so you have like Round Square in high school, and you have other debating circuits. Then if you're already sort of associating and close to these schools, that culture will seep into yours. So.
I think a key aspect of extracurricular activities is challenge, and it is the need to learn a skill specifically well so that you can graduate from one level of the skill to the next. Not necessarily like a formal graduation, but you can move on to the next in the presence of a mentor who can show you where you're wrong, and then you can grow like a Guru Shishya kind of environment. And I think in that sense, I agree with you, Ki. In school, for me, extracurricular activities wasn't the curricularized activities in school. Like I had karate, I had swimming, I had football, we had what else? We had music, we used to sing songs and stuff. But all of that, like in karate, you have to work really hard to go from one belt to another. And in our school, every single class, we just graduated to the next belt, no matter what.
Actually, very take it for granted. There are few students who can do well and are giving the attention, and all of the students are just there for the sake of it.
In addition to school classes, I also felt the need to enroll for tuitions.
I think more than me, my parents felt the need to, enroll me in tuitions. But I do agree, because especially in my school and ICSE, the amount of the number of people in the class is compared to the teachers, or the amount of time you're getting per period. Like in half an hour, you have like 30 students, that's like literally 1 minute per person. What are you going to teach? Right? So there was always this need of going to tuition so that you can actually learn what was already being taught in school, so that you can go and perform in school. Right? So it's like, as I said, it's a money-making business. You're making money in school, and then the same teachers are taking tuitions outside of school to teach you the same thing they taught in class. Especially when you end up in 8th and 9th and 10th. You're not only doing tuitions for school, you're doing tuitions for even entrance exams which are like 2 years away.
I also believe the teachers in my previous school weren't as qualified as they should have been to teach us, because like sometimes the students knew more than the teachers. And again, like you said, the student ratio to teaching ratio, that was too high, like 30:1. You can't have personal attention. In tuitions, it's like 6:1. That's perfect. That's perfect. Like we can have a personal attention, every student.
So for me, what happened was in 9th and 10th, I decided I wanted to drop science and go to commerce, which for my mom, who comes from a typical Delhi, household, it was a very big thing. So it's like, okay, fine, you're dropping maths, you're dropping science, take computers. And I knew nothing of computers. And first day of 9th, I'm sitting in a class full of people who are already certified coders. And my first paper, I failed. I got 27 out of 100. And I joined tuitions. I put a lot of time into it. And I passed out with 97 out of 100, which is more than even the people who are actual certified coders there. So that's the difference I feel between what a school can teach you. I'm sitting in a class with like maybe I think 20 people, and still I understood nothing. I was blank as compared to one-on-one tuitions where they took like months to make me learn the basics. But school is not teaching you because they assume you're already certified coders. Right? They expect you to come already prepared so that they can just brush up the things and oh, see, look what we did.
A fundamental difference between what you all experienced and what I experienced was that my teachers would take the time to teach, and the choice to go to tuitions wasn't my own but my parents. So I went to all the tuitions, but only because my parents decided. So to tuitions, I didn't feel the need at all, because the teachers did teach us in a way that we understood, and they really put a lot of effort in. Even though it was a 30:1 ratio, the time spent felt like it was enough.
I've had a similar experience. We had an absolutely great set of teachers who took the time to explain to 40 students in a class. Yes, we were 40 of us in a class, but never felt the need for tuition till maybe grade 9 or 10 when you needed additional practice in maths. And that couldn't be done in class perhaps. Though the teachers went out of their way, we had very innovative methods of studying as well. Even how they taught Shakespeare, for example, that was also very different from how they do it now. We actually played our parts and learned. So it was easier, you understood and you enjoyed. You really enjoyed school. And being a tuition teacher now myself, unfortunately, I am sometimes amazed at the kind of fees people pay to go to school, to attend a whole day in school and still need tuitions. So what does your teacher teach you in school? There are students who come back blank. They don't know anything. And then I wonder, what did you do in school? She said something, she gave us this work, and that's about it. So when you're teaching a foreign language especially, you, even as a teacher in school, you need to pique that interest in the child. If the child is not interested, they don't listen, and then that's what they end up going and telling outside that the teacher didn't teach. So if you make it boring, of course the student is going to need tuitions. And
I think it's a culture because, at least in my school, a lot of the teachers are very ready to, help, and like if you have a free lesson, they'll be like, yeah, just come to my office and I'll help you out with it. So in that sense, at least in my school, even though those facilities are there and those liberties are there, a lot of my friends, they still go to tuition because their parents want them to, they feel like they're not doing enough or they're not studying at home. So a tuition sort of becomes like this way to force your children to study, just have like this sort of eagle figure making sure that you're studying outside of school as well. Sorry. And, okay, I have school, I'll do my school homework, then I go to tuition, which is like a second school. I have homework for tuition also, and then like that, it's like you're just in the circle of just doing the same thing over and over again. You don't have time for the social life. So I think it's also a very cultural thing, apart from it being sort of insufficiency in the board itself. It's not every case. Sometimes it's also like lack of self-motivation that you sometimes need tuition, where you have a teacher who motivates you, or a teacher who's like open to answering all your doubts or going one-on-one with you, as you mentioned. So in that sense, having a teacher who makes something interesting, sometimes a teacher can be the difference between you loving and hating a subject. So sometimes you need that kind of figure to help you out.
So in my times, I never went for a tuition, but now I run a coaching academy. So, my take on it is it's become a culture, as she said, and as she also mentioned, it's a culture now because also I realize that there are a lot of primary kids coming in right from grade 2, 3 because mothers just don't want to feel guilty about not being there, to get the homework done and everything, and then once they put them into some kind of a tuition center and academy, they are satisfied that 2-3 hours my kid is going to be there and all the homework is going to be done and the marks are going to look good on the mark sheet. Whereas in our times, I think my parents never bothered so much about my marks till a certain grade, till maybe 10th. Now, as for my own daughters, she doesn't want one single mark to be cut. If it is 29 out of 30, she wants a tuition. She tells me, I want this subject tuition because I want to achieve 30 on 30. So that's the kind of culture we have.
Tuition actually a lot of times we've all been very critical of it in a way, but it's often very helpful. For me, when I finally went to proper tuition, it was in 9th and 10th, and I had this great mentor and he actually gave me an education, I would say. It's like where I first learned to think for myself, and I for the first time maybe even understood Indian politics, because especially as a ICSE student and everything, those discussions are not very entertaining within school.
My curriculum gave me a fair chance to learn about my own culture and history.
No, I think so. At that time, yes. Now,
I think we were just discussing. Sorry. We were discussing about how the ICSE curriculum has used the same chapters in Hindi that we used 20-30 years ago, even now. So considering that curriculum itself is like a historical relic, I feel like we've had a very fair chance at learning about our culture.
Apart from the curriculum, of course, in those days, I don't know how it is now in many other schools, but those days schools insisted on creating an awareness of your culture, and we were not that far away from the independence era. That makes a lot of difference. 1947 and 1997 is just a 50-year gap. You all are in the next century. So in those days, patriotic activities or any kind of celebration regarding a festival or culture or India in itself was very prevalent in all schools.
when I studied IB in International School of Paris back in '96, I had kids from 80 countries in that school, all ambassadors' kids. So if you see Japanese kid, he would exactly do. They would have their lunch in the same way, And we Indians would make a roll out of our rotis, put things in, and have it as a roll that we cannot, spoil our hands. They would put water everywhere, clean the table, put that napkin out, and then properly have their meals the way they would have it in their culture. So they were so proud of their culture. And we would like sabji smell karega, something will smell, and the class would be, this thing. So we have to be proud of our culture.
That's absolutely.
And we have to imbibe that in our own kids, and that has to happen at home.
So I think I'm the only ICSE person who is not sitting in, because I may have a controversial take on it, but I believe ICSE taught us history, and history is always written by the winners. So one thing I noticed, especially in 9th and 10th, when for once in my life I was studying very hard, with as soon as the government would change, you would have books and textbooks with wordings will change. Suddenly, instead of being a king who does something, suddenly becomes a Muslim king. I won't take name of the governments and all that, but I think we all understand what I'm talking about. And suddenly it goes into giving importance to different parts of our history. So again, it became more history centric than culture centric. And in contrast to my generation, I was someone who was very highly culturally educated because of my mother. I grew up watching Mahabharata and Ramayana and things like that. I can speak and understand Shuddh Hindi, and my school contributed absolutely nothing to it. I remember one day walking into school in 9th grade, and suddenly after a whole year of having a different prayer, our assembly goes, "Dear Heavenly Father, Amen." And I was like, what is happening? Because our whole life we've done either that Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha, or we've done some normal prayer which has like no context to any religion, and suddenly we go, "Dear Heavenly Father" and Amen. I was like, okay, that's cool. But so in that way, the school has a lot of their own motives, and even the government and the curriculum we have has a lot of their motives. And instead of maybe teaching something like Tempest or Taming of the Shrew, if we had something like Mahabharata or Ramayana, that would teach us our culture, our actual sanskar, which honestly our school teaches us zero of. It teaches us more about Hindu-Muslim divisions and about which king contributed, which did not do enough, how they impacted us, whether they took from us, whether they gave from us. I don't believe that's Indian culture, and I refuse to believe so. Indian culture has always been a lot more accepting. Our constitution itself says, it's about brotherhood, it's about secularity. And I don't see that showing up within the Indian education system. I see the complete opposite, and I will not stand for it.
At least in my school, I did history for a long time, and we touched nothing about Indian history at all, which makes me really ashamed because I didn't get the opportunity to do it in as a depth that I would have liked. But at the same time, it's also telling a lot about how much my school community knows about the culture. So if in the history class we're just studying about the Western countries, we're studying about World War I, World War II, the Renaissance, but they don't know anything about the Indian freedom movement, they don't know anything about the governments afterwards, or even languages for that matter. We're made to choose between French, Spanish and Hindi. And most people, they will go for French and Spanish because it's also like a popular choice, it's also easier for them. And we have this yearly mother tongue day where you come to school and you say a few lines in your mother's making a mockery out of it. And then you go back home and you're talking to your parents in English. So there's very little impact at home. You would speak in English to your parents, and when you go and meet your family, you're still going to talk to them in English. In the aim for internationalism, there's no, individual cultural diversity.
My school fee is or was a fair price.
As much as a child's one-day pocket money would be today. So that is how low the fees were. And for an ICSE school, back then in Kerala also it was unheard of. It was the lowest fee structure because we had children who studied for free because our school was situated in a township owned by a factory. And everyone, employees' kids were welcome to study there. So, and I was an outsider, so I had to pay a fee. The others studied without fees as well.
I think it was quite nominal. Grade 1 to 10, I was in CBSE, and then IB sort of was, my dad still tells me I spent 14-15 lakhs on you. That was back in '96.
Bhavna and I would have a different opinion about the fees we are paying for our kids. That is not fair.
That is not fair at all.
Is fair at all. I don't think we can take names in schools, but it's very obnoxious. For doing the bare minimum, and on top of that, you have like fees for participating in certain events or certain clubs, plus your uniform and then books and food. It's like it becomes a money-making process.
So for me, I feel like the fees is not fair. Obviously, it's important to take into account that the background of this entire, like everyone over here is already quite privileged.
So I agree with Vedika. Basically, I have numerous friends who would love to be a part of IB who are in love with the IB curriculum, how it's structured, but they are forced to choose like the college or the HSC board or the Indian other board just because of the money. So our school fees is around 11-12 lakhs, and when they go to a junior college that is in HSC, they have to pay just 500 rupees a year. So despite the level of education being less in HSC comparatively, like compared to IB, they have to choose HSC even though they want to do IB. So education is a luxury, and there is less of a sense of meritocracy, like you said. So
It's simple as that. If you can't afford IB, you can't.
Yeah.
You can't do it. It's not on the basis of merit or anything. No matter
It's
how
not
good
about
the child is.
how much you like the board also.
Yes.
Actually,
Like the child, I feel.
Sometimes children take time to evolve as well. And regarding the fees, if you are charging X amount of money, which is like a huge amount of money, then you give infrastructure, you give some facilities that can justify that fees, is what I think. If you have nothing to give for that, you just put the children in a building, it doesn't make sense.
I think being able to afford the fees that we pay is a privilege, it's a luxury. It's only because we do certain things can be, or because we have a certain background can we can afford those fees. But at the same time, I feel that education has to be equal opportunity. You
For
cannot
everyone.
for everyone. It cannot be defined by how much you earn, by who your parents are, etc. But this is the same no matter which schools we're in, which schools we want to go to.
I was judged or stereotyped because of the curriculum that I studied in. Okay, so the disagreeers can step forward.
I think most of us don't feel judged because we're the ones judging.
That's true.
And we're too scared of being judged, which is why we want to be the ones on that level. We can't be judged.
It's interesting.
that's very accurate take, I would say.
I mean, I think it's more generational as well, because as like the younger generations now, we're all sort of looking at we all have the same motives. Like we all want to, at least in this environment, a lot of us want to study abroad, and a lot of us want. We're all sort of in the same culture, and in this environment, we're not really judging each other because we're all essentially having the same motive.
But that's still a very small group of people
Yeah.
that you're interacting with right now. Once you're out in the college and probably abroad also, and people come from different backgrounds, much better than yours, they might still judge you. So it doesn't stop anywhere.
I would switch to another curriculum if I had the choice.
Not happening.
In a different time
No
frame.
choice. I would switch to IB because I have a lot of friends who were in IB out on, and if I was given the chance, I would think I would have evolved a lot more in terms of as a person if I had the opportunity to explore what I think and how that I could put on paper. That's something I wish I had.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think in school, when you spend from the age of 3 to the age of 17, so it's 12 years in school, and I think that forms your thought process for a large part of your life. In fact, for most people, they just go through life without ever questioning the thought process that was put into them in school.
So what clicks me when I hear all of this, both of them talking about their own individual self, that the curriculum has to be designed in such a way, whether it is IB, ICSE or whatever, that this is Japanese concept called ikigai. So the child realizes his or her ikigai, what is the purpose of life, what is that what child is interested in, what is it that the child can contribute to the world, and in that way make an earning out of it. So if that is done at the very earlier stages of education, then sometimes what happens, like it has happened with me, because of being in different goals or not getting that kind of an insight, you generally tend to understand your true self much later on in life.
And then you're suddenly in a place where they want you to decide what you want to do. All of a sudden. So that's the irony. It's like they give you no time to decide and they say, okay, tell us what you want to do. So you end up just choosing any path for the sake of it, often relying on your school and your parents' influences, and you end up doing something you don't like.
Most of the cases, it will be you will get into careers which you do not like.
I have a slightly different point of view here, because for me it was not only the board that decided the path of my life. Maybe it was also the kind of mentorship I got. When I was in school, it was like like I said earlier, you can't look here and there. You're either an engineer or a medical student. If you're not really bad at those two, you're going to commerce or you're going to arts, final, last option. Right? That was the only thing that existed in society. I remember my school principal, he used to teach us English, and he had called my mom to school. He said, don't let her get into this rat race. Your daughter is meant for languages. Let her pursue a career in language. And just because everybody around me said I should pursue a career in languages, I said, no, I don't want to do it. I want to take up engineering because all my friends are doing it. I of course shifted cities and I could not pursue that career. I took up science anyway, graduated in mathematics, and I'll give you a classic example of how career switches happen. I post-graduated in computer science because to date I still love computer science and love coding and everything. But during my post-graduation I decided that okay, I have a flair for language and I want to do writing but related to computers. So I started digging and meeting people. What career can I pursue after this? I did a career in technical writing, which was nice, but it did not let me do any kind of creative writing. So again, I was stuck for 3 years. I was, hopping between big companies. I mean, not small. I was in a technical communications team. So the final team did give me some opportunity to explore the creative side of writing. Apart from writing, click this button, go to this page, click close this dialog box. I mean, that is what technical writing was. And then eventually my grandfather said, Smita, you have a flair for languages. Please take up language again. Yeah. And then I went back to learning French, and now I'm completely into languages. I'm learning 2 languages, I'm teaching them.
So I'm happy with what you're doing now?
Now I'm happy, but as you said, I realized that at the age of 35.
Right.
On the other hand, you have TOK and IP. So that's called the theory of knowledge. And over there, they actually teach you to question everything. So I was reading Reddit, the IB, that subreddit a few days ago, and a lot of people, they talk about how parents are not supportive of IB because it teaches children to question their own religion as well.
What I really like is the concept of TOK, For me, again, this is something I got from my parents. So I have no religion and I have no last name by birth. Legally my name is Mehak. They gave me the opportunity of saying, go out there, figure out if you want to have a surname or not. I don't want you to be introduced as, related to your parents. And I have no religion per se, because it's not my belief. When you're born, you don't have a sense of belief, right? So I take both my parents' surname. My mom never changed her surname after marriage, so I take both because I believe in that equal representation. And as for religion, I have equal respect for all religions, and that's because I have the opportunity to think for myself.
Okay guys, that's a wrap.